Hi and welcome to this IBM Cloud Foundation Skills Series video. This video is going to be a lab and we're going to take a look at the IBM Load Balancer service. So in this lab I'm going to create a simple website that uses this architecture. Now I'm also going to enhance the security of my website by using web servers that have no public facing IP addresses. They're all going to sit on the IBM Cloud private network only and exposed through the load balancer. So, because I can't connect to my web server from the internet, I'm also going to create a jump server. I can then SSH into the jump server and from there SSH into the web servers using the private network connection. Now note too that I'm using security groups which are very similar to software firewalls. What these do is ensure that one, I can only log into my web servers from a server that is in the jump server security group, and two, I can set up my jump server so that I can only SSH into that, so no other connection types are allowed. And I can also set up restrictions on the IP addresses that I can connect to the jump server from. So I know that only my admin team can log into it, for example, although I won't actually do that in this video. However, if you do want to know more about security groups and configuring them, then look out for the videos on security groups already available in this series. So as I said, what we'll create is a very simple website example that has 3 instances of it across 3 load balance servers. Okay, so here I am in my IBM Cloud account at cloud.ibm.com. So the first thing I'm actually going to go and do is create my security groups. So as we saw in the diagram, we're going to have a jump server and we're going to have and 3 web servers. So let's go over to classic infrastructure. And let's then go down to security and network security and security groups. So there is actually an inbuilt security group that I could use for my jump server. It's this one called allow SSH. I'm going to, so I can look at the properties there. What I'm going to do is duplicate that, and I'm just going to give it another name. So I'm going to call this my jump server. SG, just so that I've got a separate one. And this basically is allowing all ingress traffic on TCP traffic on port 22, which is the SSH traffic. So I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to create one more security group. So it's just giving me a success message there. So I'm going to create another security group. I'm going to call this my web server. My web server security group. So I'm going to just create that group. Okay, and that one's there. So let's just go and edit that. Now, what I want this security group to be able to do is actually be able to receive connections from my my jump server, and I also want it to be able to serve HTTP traffic and HTTPS traffic via port 80 and 443. So let's go and create the rule. So on inbound traffic, so my security group is going to be my jump server security group. My port range is going to be 22 because it's going to be my SSH traffic coming in, so I'm going to say OK to that. And then I'm going to create another inbound rule, and this is going to be on port 80, and it's going to be from anything, so 0.0.0.0/0, so we're using that as a cider block. So I'm going to say OK to that. And then the last one is for 443. So again, you can see the different protocols here if you're unfamiliar with this. So 443 is my port range. Again, a cider block is going to be 0.0.0.0/0, so it allows anything to come into there. And so there are my 4 rules. So anything can go out. Inbound, I can have 443 and 80 from anywhere, and inbound I can also have anything on port 22 from my jump server. So this makes my web servers actually quite secure. Okay, so let's actually then create some servers to go into these security groups. So we're going to use virtual servers. Okay, so I'm going to use transient virtual servers for my machines. Obviously, if you're creating a website for real, you'd use public, dedicated, or perhaps even reserved virtual servers. I'm just going to use transient virtual servers because this website isn't going to last for much longer than the time it takes me to make the video. And obviously it reduces my costs as well significantly. So I'm going to click continue. Okay, so as I say, I'm going to create my jump server first. So I'm going to call this my jump server. And I'm going to put this in Europe in Lon 06 because that's where I'm close to. There we go. And again, this is going to be a fairly bog standard server. So 1 CPU, 1 gig of RAM. I'm just going to run CentOS, a minimal CentOS build on there. And I'm going to put it in my security group. So let's just scroll down. So my jump server security group and my jump server security group. There we go. And with that, I just click the button there and do a create. Right, so there's my jump server being created. Now I need to create my web servers. So I just order devices, go back to virtual server. And again, I'm just going to use transient virtual servers, but as I say, normally you'd use some like public, dedicated or reserved. But again, because these aren't going to last much longer than the time it takes me to create the video, I'm just going to use transient ones. So I'm going to select 3 of these, hourly billing, and I'm going to call these. I'm going to call this my web server. And because I'm creating 3, what I'll see is my host name is going to be my web server 01, 02, and 03. So again, I'm going to put these into Europe, into Lon 06, so in London, because that's where I am. I'm going to change the type of server that this is. I'm going to go for a LAMP server because then that will give me the web server as well. And the other thing I'm going to do is actually change the uplinks. I'm just going to go put it on the on the private network rather. I'm not going to have any public network links for this because my load balancer will actually be connecting to these servers on the private LAN. So I don't actually need to have public uplinks. And again, it makes the web servers that bit more secure as well. So I'm going to put these in a security group. So it will be the web server security group that we created. I'll just put that into 2. Let's take those out again. So let's try this again. So I'm going to put it in my web server security group, and that's all I need to do really. So I'm going to click the button here to agree to the terms and conditions, and then click create. So my web servers are now off being created. So those are now creating. So I'm going to pause the video there, and we'll be back once those servers have created. Okay, so here we are back again, and you can see now that I've got my jump server, and I've actually got my 3 web servers as well. And you can see that my jump server has a public IP address as well as a private IP address, but my web servers only actually have private IP addresses. So this means that I can't actually reach these web servers from a public address. So if I typed in 10.72.51.216 into my browser, then basically it would just time out. I wouldn't get any response. To actually get at this IP address, I need to be physically logged into the IBM Cloud VPN. So again, this is a good layer of security for my web servers. They're not exposed to the public internet. So the next thing I wanted to do was actually create a website. So I've started to do this already. So I've got 3 terminals up here. So what I'm actually doing is I'm connected. So with this one, you can see here, I'm connected to my jump server. And what I'm then doing is I'm SSHing to each of my web servers. So let's just move this one out of the way so I can see the last IP address. So SSH. So I'm going to connect as root at 10.72.51.226. Okay, so it's the first time I'm connected to this, so I want to do that. I'm actually going to put in the password, so I've already copied the password from my list here. So there we are, I'm now logged in as root on my web server 3. Okay, so let's just move these ones over again. So you can see this is actually web server 1, and I've already created this HTML page, which is it's called index.html, and var www.html is the directory structure of the web server. So in this one I've called it, this is web server 1, hello, I'm web server 1. So what I expect to see when I go to this page is hello, I'm web server 1 in large typeface. This is web server 2, and I've done exactly the same, only I've said this is web server 2 and I'm web server 2. And here let's do the same here as well. So let's use vi. So we're going to go to var www/html, and we're going to then create this file called index.html. So I'm just going to copy this rather than just watch me type it all out again. So if I just paste that in there, so let's just again just change this so that we then have web server 3. Web server 3. Now, of course, normally what you would do here is have each of these websites exactly the same, because at the end of the day, you're load balancing a website and you want to have the same website coming from all 3 servers. I'm doing this to prove to you, I guess more than anything, to show that the load balancing is actually working. So when I actually do the load balancer, you can see that it's switching between the different servers. But what you normally have is identical websites, obviously, on each of the 3 servers. So, okay, so I'm going to, so I'm just going to escape from that and then just save it. And the same here as well. I'm just going to save that. And let's save this one too. So there we go. So they're now all saved. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually go and create my load balancer. So so I can do that from here, or I can click catalog. So I'm going to click catalog, and then I'm going to go to networking. And here we go. There's the load balancers pane. So I'm actually going to choose this IBM Cloud Load Balancer. I'm going to click create. So the next thing I need to do is actually give my load balancer a name. So I'm calling this my website load balancer. I'm giving it a description. So this is the load balancer head of my website. So it's a good idea to just give these things a name and a description which is meaningful, because obviously you can create multiple load balancers within your account. I think the soft limit is 50, but you can go over 50 as well. So it's a good idea to name them, because then you know which one that you're actually dealing with if you need to change something. I need to choose a data center, so I'm going to choose the same data center that my servers are actually located in. You can choose a data center which is different, but it needs to be in the same city. So because my servers are in London, then I could choose any of these LON data centers. I'm going to choose LON 06 is where my servers actually are. I want it to be a public internet-facing load balancer, and I'm quite happy for it to be HTTP. I can add protocols if I wish, but I'll just clicking that button there. So the next thing I need to look at is my health check. So this is what the load balancer actually looks at in deciding whether or not a server is actually up and running. So, so you can leave this default. I'm actually going to put this as index.html, because then it's actually going to be looking at my web page. So if my web page isn't there, then it will also stop serving that particular server. So next thing I need to do is actually attach my servers. So I click the button there. So then all I do is use this drop-down list, and the drop-down list is actually quite useful because it will only show me the servers that I can actually connect to my load balancer. So I'm going to be collecting my web server, so I'm going to go as web server 1, and as you can see, it's using the private IP address. So I'm going to attach another server. So I'm going for this one, it's going to be web server 2, and then attach a third server. So this is going to be web server number 3. So we go, those are all my servers attached. Okay, so again, all I just need to do is a quick check of the details. They're all going to be connecting via the private IP, which is the default anyway, which is what I want. And I'm just going to click the master service agreement and click create. So now my load balancer is actually creating. So again, this will take a few minutes just for it to create. So we'll just pause the video whilst it's creating. Okay, so it's now about 3 or 4 minutes later, and as you can see, my load balancer is now online. The information here says the name of my load balancer. There's my description. Now this address is the important bit because this is now the address of my website. So if I copy that, so what I should now be able to do is create a new tab on my in my browser, paste that in, and there you go. It's now serving my website. So if I refresh this, it should go from 1 to 2 to 3 because it's obviously a round robin at the moment. So there we go. It's now serving all of my websites. And as I said, normally what you would do is each of these servers would actually have the same website on them, so you're actually serving the same content. But as I say, just to sort of prove the point that this load balancer is working, what I've done is created a different website for each server. So that's now working. So let's just go and have a dive into here and just have a bit more of a look at the dashboard underneath the load balancer itself. So what you can see here is that my server status has got 3 instances up and none are down. So you can see that it's not actually. You can see that all of my instances are actually healthy. You can see that down here as well. You can see that at the moment there's not much in the way of throughput or active connection. So I've actually got 2 active connections to this because I've got an active connection from this browser. I've also got an active connection from another browser on my computer as well that I was just using to make sure everything was working. So if I go and have a look at the protocols, then you can see the protocols that my load balancer is allowing. And again, if I wanted to add something, then I just need to click the Add Protocol button here, and then I can add some more bits and pieces in there. So I can add different protocols like TCP or HTTPS. Let's just cancel that for now. Server instances. So if I actually wanted to add some more servers to this list, then again I can do that. Or take servers out. I can take servers out using these buttons here. I can also add servers by clicking this button here, and again it will give me a list of servers that I can add. So I could have my jump server, for instance, or this other server here. Again, I'm not going to do that. In terms of monitoring, at the moment there's no data here. So, but if I wanted to monitor this, then I can do that and set that up. With regard to health checks, you can see that at the moment all of my servers are actually healthy. So one of the reasons, so what this is actually doing with the health checks is that the load balancer is looking to make sure that there is this index.html page and it can actually get at it. So let's do a quick experiment to make this to make a server unhealthy. So if I go back to, let's go back to server 3. So if I now, so if I list, so if I cd to var www html, you can see that I've got this file index.html, and that's the file that it's actually checking is healthy. So if I actually move this file, so I'm going to move index.html to index.old.html. So that means that this index HTML file no longer exists effectively. So if I now go back to my load balancer and I just refresh it, and I go back to my overview, then you can now see that one of these instances is down, and that's because it's obviously no longer got an HTML page. So if I go over to here and I do some refreshes, you can see that it's no longer actually going to web server, no longer going to web server 3. So let's just try that again. So let's go back to, let's do number 2 now. So if I go to cd var www html, and again I do a move index.html to index old.html. So again it's gone from there, and I then refresh this. Okay, now you can actually see that I've got 2 instances down. So if I go back to here then and I start to refresh, then you can see that now it's only going to web server 1. So let's start to restore them again. So let's move index old to index HTML again. Let's do the same here. So okay, and then if I just start to refresh this page, then what we should see is that the servers are actually starting to come back. So I've got one and 2 are back, and there we go, 3 is back as well. So again, it's fairly quick and instantaneous. Okay, and then if I just refresh this page as well, then again you can see all 3 instances are up and none are down. And then again you can see my throughput, and you can see the data that I'm processing as well. So some good metrics here as well. So there we have it, a simple load balance website based on this architecture. So as a quick summary, here's what we did. First, we created a couple of security groups, one for the jump server and one for the web servers, and the way we set those up was to allow SSH traffic only to the jump server security group, and to only allow SSH traffic from the servers in the jump server security group to connect to servers in the web server security group. We allowed HTTP from anywhere to connect to the web servers, but in fact, since those servers had no public connection, such connections were restricted anyway to servers on the private network. We then created the load balancer and then assigned the web servers to it so they would be load balanced. We then went on to show the connections being distributed in a round-robin fashion via the load balancer on the internet. Now, while I only showed you round-robin, you can also set the load balancer to do weighted round-robin or least connected load balancing, and you can do this either when you order the load balancer, or you can do it afterwards by editing the configuration on the Protocols tab. I then showed you how the health check works. So by default, the load balancer will just check that the server is up and running, but I changed this so that the health check actually checked that my index.html file was there and could be served, which is possibly a better health check. Anyway, when I removed this file on a couple of servers by renaming it, the load balancer then saw those servers as unhealthy and stopped sending traffic to them. And similarly, when I reinstated the file, the servers then became healthy again, and the load balancer directed traffic to the servers once more. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. As ever, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. See you next time.